The bridge wasn't just a structure of wood and stone to me. It was a symbol of everything my family had built with their own hands. My grandfather had laid the first timbers back in the 1950s, using logs he cut from our own land and nails he forged in a little workshop behind the ranch house. Every board, every rail, carried his sweat and his pride. That bridge had carried our cattle across during floods, our trucks loaded with hay bales, and even me as a boy, running barefoot across its creaking planks. For decades it had stood strong, weathering storms and the slow erosion of time. To outsiders, it was just an old country bridge. To me, it was legacy. When I inherited the ranch, I promised myself I would preserve that bridge for as long as I lived. It wasn't just practical. It was the only direct way across the river that split my land from the town road, but it was personal. That's why, on that hot summer morning when I came back from the feed store, I nearly dropped my supplies when I saw the smoke of machinery dust rising from the riverbank. As I got closer, the sight froze me in my tracks. The bridge, my grandfather's bridge, was gone. Where it had once spanned the flowing water, there was nothing but jagged piles of splintered wood littering the banks, and in the center of it all stood Karen, the HOA president, flanked by two men in reflective vests and a backhoe, idling like a monster that had just finished its meal. Karen was grinning. She actually had the nerve to look proud of herself, standing there in her crisp blouse and oversized sunglasses as if she'd just unveiled a new community pool. "Unsafe structure," she declared, her voice sharp and condescending as I approached. It was a hazard to the community, and we had no choice but to remove it. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. A hazard? That bridge had stood stronger than half the homes in their subdivision, and more importantly, it wasn't even their business. My land lay outside their jurisdiction. They had no right, no authority, no claim. Yet here Karen was, smiling like a queen after conquest, acting as though she had done everyone a favor. I demanded to know who gave her permission, but she just waved her hand like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You should thank us," she said, "before someone got hurt on that death trap. We've had complaints, and we acted. That's what a responsible HOA does." Her smugness only fueled my fury. Complaints? From who? No one used that bridge except me. And responsible hoe? The hypocrisy burned in my chest. They had trespassed on my ranch, destroyed private property, and treated it as their civic duty. The men with her avoided my eyes, clearly uneasy, but Karen was reveling in her moment of power. To her, I was just another rancher standing in the way of her polished, controlled community. She wanted the land to look the way she envisioned, neat, modern, uniform, and anything that didn't fit that mold was a problem she would bulldoze away. Literally. I stood there on the riverbank, staring at the ruins of my grandfather's work, and I made a silent vow. Karen thought she had won a battle, but she had no idea what kind of war she had just started. What she didn't know, and what made me bite back my rage for the moment, was that I had been quietly buying up land in the county. And one of those purchases was about to change everything, the dam upstream that fed this very river, and the lake her precious neighborhood depended on. As Karen strutted away, leaving me in the wreckage, I didn't shout or argue. I just watched, my mind already working. She thought destroying my bridge was the end of the story. In reality, it was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. The image of my grandfather's bridge, reduced to rubble under Karen's orders, replayed in my mind over and over like a cruel movie on repeat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smug smile and heard her shrill voice lecturing me about safety and community responsibility. But instead of stewing in anger, I spent those long hours formulating a plan. Karen had trespassed and destroyed something priceless, but I had leverage she didn't know about yet, leverage that could turn her victory into the HOA's downfall. A few months back, I had purchased a dam upstream from the river. It wasn't a flashy buy, and most people probably didn't even realize it had changed hands. But I bought it because I knew its importance. That dam controlled the water level for the entire region, including the man-made lake that Karen's neighborhood had been built around. Their waterfront mansions, as they proudly called them, weren't really lakefront at all. Without the dam holding it steady, that lake was nothing more than a wide mudflat waiting to happen. And now, standing in the shadow of my demolished bridge, I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. The next morning, I drove to the dam office. It was quiet there, just the hum of the turbines and the faint rush of water echoing through the concrete. I met with the manager, an older man who'd been overseeing operations for years. When I showed him the paperwork proving I was the legal owner, he raised his eyebrows but nodded. "Your property, your call," he said simply. And with that, I ordered the gates opened. At first, it was subtle. The water level began to dip slowly, almost unnoticeable to the casual eye. But by the second day, docks in Karen's neighborhood were sitting awkwardly above the shrinking shoreline, boats stranded in muddy shallows. By the end of the week, the pristine lakefront that homeowners had paid millions for was reduced to a swampy basin with dead fish scattered across the cracked earth. The once idyllic view from their back patios was nothing but muck and reeds. Panic spread quickly. Homeowners gathered at emergency meetings demanding answers. They called the county, the state, anyone they could think of. But every official they contacted confirmed the same thing. The dam and the lake were private property, and both belonged entirely to me. Karen was furious. She stormed onto my ranch one morning, red-faced and trembling with rage, waving a stack of papers that looked suspiciously like bogus HOA citations. "You can't do this," she screamed, pointing a manicured finger at me as though it were a weapon. "You're destroying property values. You'll be sued for millions." I didn't even flinch. Calmly, I showed her my deeds of the dam and the surrounding water system. "I can, and I already have," I replied evenly. "You destroyed my bridge, Karen. You trespassed and vandalized private property. This is me holding you accountable." For the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. Her power came from intimidation, from making people believe she had control. But now, stripped of her lake and facing a wall of angry neighbors, her empire was crumbling. Lawsuits weren't being filed against me. They were being filed against her and the HOA for overstepping their authority and destroying private property. As the weeks went by, the neighborhood turned on her. The board was dissolved under mounting legal pressure, and Karen herself faced charges for trespassing and vandalism. My bridge was gone, but in its place, I had reclaimed something even more powerful: justice, and a reminder that some legacies don't fall so easily. Standing on the dam one evening, watching the trickle of water where a lake had once been, I thought about my grandfather. He would have laughed at the irony. Karen destroyed our bridge, but in the end, it was her foundation that collapsed.